Good day, dear students, dear Sians. So, hello. Kumusta kayo lahat? So, I have seen a lot of you already submitted their first activity. Very good. Marami. We're able to do it on time. And sa mga wala pa, always find this time na makahabol kayo sa mga notes. And also, I want to say hi to you guys. It's been a while. And we come here to our second activity, formal activity for English for academic and professional purposes. So again, ang inyong lungkod, si Mr. Leo Velasco. I'll be guiding you all throughout anything and everything you need to know about English for its utility on professional purposes. Okay, so let's move forward then. So our topic for today completely revolves around quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. Okay, so this handout is intended to help you become more comfortable with the uses and of distinctions among quotations, paraphrases, and summaries. Okay, so this handout compares and contrasts the three terms, gives some pointers, and includes a short excerpt that you could actually use to practice these skills. Okay, so we are going to discuss these simple terms coined to be as coding, paraphrasing, and summarizing. Oftentimes, these three terms are being interconnected with each other, but a lot of times I can tell that these three words actually are being misused. Okay, so they are having the impression that you could like alter, you could set aside some different characteristics from one another, but in reality, these three terms are really different in form and structure. So that's what we are going to talk about today, step by step. We're going to seek out and compare and contrast these three terms, which is mainly being used in our academic purposes. Okay? So please take note. This copy is also uploaded in your Google Classroom. So please copy everything on this paper on your notebooks. I'm looking forward. You already did that a while ago. And for face-to-face, your notebooks will be checked on Saturday, and for online and modulars, please do submit on times on your Google Classrooms. So let's get straight to the point then. What are the differences among coding, paraphrasing, and summarizing? Okay, so these are three ways of incorporating others' writers' work in your own writing. Okay, so in other words, this is one way of getting such ideas without like merely plagiarizing them. Okay, so these three ways, it will enable you to incorporate, okay, a part of someone else's work through your original work, okay, through your original source of writing, without, let's say, compromising the quality, the legality, and also the promptness of your written material. So let's talk about quotations. Okay? So quotations, mainly or mainstreamly, we were able to know that when we are quoting something, of course, we have to use quotation marks, right? The open and close in quotation. When we are citing quotations, this must be identical to the original. Okay, let me highlight that part for you then. All right, so on this part, quotations must be identical to the original using a narrow segment of the source. They must match the source of document word for word and must be attributed to the original author. So, like for example, if he quoted me on saying such original sayings, that only I am well known of. Okay? So it like literally means you have to put into word by word, letter by letter, anything and everything that I have said a while ago, and you have to depict me. You have to acknowledge that I was the one who said that. And that's how we do quotations. We have some set of examples in here. So later we'll be able to see that, okay? But let us discuss first paraphrasing. Now, what is the difference between quotation and paraphrasing? Now, when we paraphrase something, it involves putting a passage of a source material into your own words. So, meaning you don't have to, or it is not necessary for you to write it word by word. Because a paraphrase must also be attributed to the original source. Only that paraphrase material is usually shorter than the original passage, taking a somewhat broader segment of the source and condensing it slightly. Now, when we say quotation, okay, let's try to take an in-depth look. Okay, let me show you those two things. Okay, quotation and paraphrasing. When we quote something, it is being said that we have to put those word by word, not missing a letter to it, for it to be called a quotation or a quoted text. Of course, you must acknowledge the author or the one who said those things. In paraphrasing, it's as if you're helping your readers. You're helping someone else. You are like in aid of making anything and everything easier to understand. Simplifying things into your own terms, like using colloquial terms and also, let's say, using familiar words instead of jargon words. So that's how you paraphrase things. Remember, it involves putting a passage from the source material, only that it's in your own words version. Okay? But remember, both quotation and paraphrasing shall be attributed to the source. They should be properly acknowledged. Okay? So, commonly, paraphrased thoughts, paraphrased sentences, or paragraphs are shorter than the original one. So, let us talk about summarizing. When we summarize something, we usually just take note of the important parts, right? That's how we were taught of summarizing some few things. But summarizing really involves putting the main ideas into your own words, okay? Including only the main points. Now, there had been a long, let's say, misconception or misunderstanding about how we should summarize things. Students now tend to like shorten the original verses, the original paragraphs, just to justify that their work has been summarized already. But in reality, unless otherwise, you use your own words, you put that on writing, you put that on your speech or any genre, putting the main ideas onto it with your own words. That's where summarizing will stand out because it is necessary also to attribute summarized ideas to the original source. So it means summaries are significantly shorter than the original, but it takes a broad overview of the source material. Okay. So just in the event that you are still having confusion between summarizing and paraphrasing, okay, and also quotation, let us compare and contrast paraphrasing and summarizing. When we paraphrase something, it could just be a small passage. It could just be a paragraph or two, a sentence or two. But when we summarize something, from the very beginning till the very end of the text, it means that we have to literally put in everything in our own words, on our understanding. How are we going to convey it with our listeners or our readers? But still taking into consideration that even if the work is summarized, it should take a broader overview of the source materials. Okay? So let's answer the question, why do we have to use quotations, paraphrases, and summaries? Let's find out then. Now, quotations, paraphrases, and summaries serves many purposes. You might use them to, number one, provide support, okay, for claims or add credibility to your writing. Especially if you are involved in technical writing or let's say in commercial writing, it is really necessary for you to have some supporting details from trusted sources, from trusted media, be it a newspaper, a TV program, a let's say a trusted channel on YouTube or a vlogger, whatever. And nowadays, they consider TikTok as source of information. As long as it is able to provide support or claim, just to add up credibility to one's work. You could always quote them, paraphrase them, and summarize what they have done over the course of time. Now, another use of quotation and paraphrasing and also summarizing is it refers to work that leads up to the work you are now doing. Okay? So it means it justifies even more. Okay? It leads up to the work that you are now doing. So it means no person would ever be interested in quoting something and paraphrasing something and in summarizing something which does not interest them. So we have to take in consideration rather the interest or the niche of that person, the specialty, as what they say, for them to be able to write efficiently and effectively. Okay? So most of the time, quotations and paraphrases and summaries, it's like 60% of those academic writing contains these three stuffs, which helps out writers in the English format. Okay? And take note, using quotation, paraphrases, and summaries also gives examples to several points of view on a subject. Gives examples. So that's great to hear then. Since it is able to give examples, it means you don't have to spend much of your time explaining yourself. Because you could always share one's experience. You could always share a group's experience. Like, for example, if someone is more than interested in taking up pills, which has a whitening effect, of course, the market are those fairly skin-toned person or group of people. Now, if that happens to be an advertisement or let's say a flagship, a product that is like merely new to, let's say, to the market, they always use quotation, paraphrases, and summaries to bandwagon themselves, right? They always use someone else's, let's say, part of a speech to endorse them properly, to make them more credible and credulous at times. And take note, using quotations, paraphrases, and summaries calls to attention, to a position that you wish to agree or disagree with. Okay, it also highlights a particularly striking phrase, sentence, or passage by quoting the original. So, most of this can be seen in some movie scripts, in some academic writings. They always tend to refer to someone else's work, someone else's experience, and someone else's, let's say, famous line so that they could relate to one another. Okay, so it highlights a particularly striking phrase. And another consideration, the distance yourself from the original by quoting it in order to cue readers that the words are not your own. It's really, really important for you to acknowledge, let's say, the original author, the original writer of any, let's say, any kind of works, be it copyrighted or not copyrighted, by due diligence and moral virtues. It is just but right and right use that we always quote them, we always thank them, we always acknowledge them for their work. Because at the end of the day, they are the very reason you're able to finish up what you're writing, right? It also expands the breadth or depth of your writing. Okay. Now, when we say the breadth and depth of writing, one may be able to write just for the sake of love of writing. You know, as the saying goes, if you want to be a writer, then just write. Just literally write, and you're a writer already. Now, expanding the breadth or depth of your writing not only focuses on the vocabulary. Remember, the proper use of nouns, pronouns, subject verb agreements in your works only justifies that you must be a grammarian or someone who has a perfect diction. But expanding the depth of your writing, it entails, let's say, a journey of you being exposed to many people with different expertise, with different related experiences on whatever thing you're working on. Be it an academic paper, a thesis writing paper, or let's say a simple term paper. So that's the importance of that. Now, writers frequently intertwine summaries, paraphrases, and quotations as part of a summary of an article, a chapter, or a book. A writer might include paraphrases of various key points blended with quotations of striking or suggestive phrases, as in the following example. So, what is being explained in here? Not only oftentimes, but frequently, it is a best practice, especially if you are really an aspiring writer, to put in everything in place. Like, for example, if you want to use a quotation, a paraphrase, or a summary, you should always position them in proper timing. You could use them like alternately if you want to. Now, here is one great example of that suggestive, let's say, technique. Okay. So, in this example, in his famous and influential work, The Interpretation of Dreams by Sigmund Freud, it argues that the dreams are the royal road to unconsciousness, with the page number, expressing in coded imagery the dreamer's unfulfilled wishes through a process known as the dream work, with the page number again. And according to Freud, actually, but unacceptable desires are censored internally. So let's stop to that point, okay? Let's just focus on the sentence. I know and I'm aware it might sound boring, it might look boring, but at the end of the day, this is what English is all about, right? Now, Let us examine piece by piece what has been used in this part quotation. If you would try to take a look, Sigmund Freud, okay, one of the educational philosophers, a psychoanalyst, to be precise, was able to be highlighted in this passage. Okay, it's said in here, what's in it with Sigmund Freud in one of his famous and influential, okay, work. Here is the title of the work, The Interpretation of Dreams, and here is what the work is all about. So it argues that dreams are the royal road to unconsciousness. And if you would try to observe again, they also quoted the page number. Okay? Now, even if they just took the title of the book, the name of the person, how famous and influential he was, they were able to deliberately give us an image of how to efficiently, let's say, describe Sigmund Freud at that point of time. So it said in here, expressing encoded imagery. So it means something in Freud's work must have been so, let's say, so deep or with that in depth that only intellectuals are able to decode what he was trying to emphasize during his early years. Okay? And you could observe in here the phrase according to Freud. So it is one way of acknowledging that it is actually him who said or wrote that down. So according to Freud, actual but unacceptable desires are censored internally. So that's the part where it is being described elaborately. Okay? So this is a perfect example of the conjoint uses of summarizing, decoding, and paraphrasing. They were able to shorten, okay? They were able to shorten the title itself, the passage itself. Why? No one would ever take them time reading such long scriptures just to, let's say, just to come up with this very simple idea, like the interpretation of dreams by Freud. So, what the writer did in here is he emphasized how significant the work of Freud was by beginning the sentence or starting the sentence with the phrase in his famous and influential work. So even if you don't know the person yet, even if you don't know the philosopher yet, it will give you like a bird's eye view that this certain person is an expert on this kind of matter, right? That this person is more than, let's say, doing the talk. And if you could observe on the last part of the sentence, the highlighted phrase, according to Freud. After quoting that, according to Freud, they actually, or the writer actually gave out his opinion, which is quite true and relevant to what the writer was. Okay? So, this is a perfect example of using all of those three elements all together to, let's say, to create a solid thought, to create a complete thought in a very short paragraph. So let us try to take a look at the bottom part. Okay. So let us talk about now how to use quotations, paraphrases, and summaries. And for the last part, my dear students, we have prepared a very short infomercial which you could actually use as a reference to how efficiently use quotations, paraphrases, and summaries. So always remember, before this video ends, you are then required to write anything and everything which is written down in this text That is to guide you more. Okay, just be able to write it on your notebook if you are an online learner, be able to upload it on time. If you are a face to face learner, your notebooks will be checked on Saturday. So let's watch this short video.
Quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. In business writing, you often need to quote, paraphrase, or summarize someone else's ideas. To make your point powerfully and avoid plagiarism, you must learn how to properly refer to other people's work. A quotation is a set of words written or spoken by someone else, used just as they are with no variation. Let's look at an example of a direct quotation from an article called Instagram Co-Founders to Step Down, about Instagram's founders from the September 25, 2018 edition of the Wall Street Journal. Here's the whole article, but we just want to quote this line. In order to use this quote in our writing, we need to indicate who said it and where it can be found in this way. The Wall Street Journal's technology contributor Deepa Seetharaman said, "The two co-founders of Facebook Inc.'s popular Instagram app are stepping down, a move marking continued tumult at the social networking giant." Notice that the highlighted sections indicate to the reader when you start and stop using the borrowed information. You'll need an introductory phrase and some sort of citation or reference each time you quote someone. A paraphrase is an altered version of someone else's words that retains the same meaning. You paraphrase someone when rephrasing their point will be more effective with your audience. For example, your paraphrase may contain less technical language or be less formal. According to Deepa Seetharaman, technology contributor for the Wall Street Journal, the two founders of Instagram are resigning, another sign of problems at Instagram's parent Facebook. You can also mix some direct quoting and some paraphrasing. According to Deepa Seetharaman, technology contributor for the Wall Street Journal, the two founders of Instagram are resigning from Facebook, a move marking continued tumult at the social networking giant. A summary is a shortened version of someone else's words and ideas, covering key points only. Here's the summary of the same passage from the Wall Street Journal article. Management turmoil continues at Facebook with the resignation of Instagram's co-founders, according to the Wall Street Journal's Deepa Seetharaman. Here's an important point. You need to tell your reader who originated the idea you are using and signal why the person is credible. Here, we signal Deepa Seetharaman's credibility with this introductory phrase. The Wall Street Journal's technology contributor Deepa Seetharaman said, "If you have more information about the source that will help support your point, insert that information, but don't go overboard like in this example." The Wall Street Journal's technology contributor Deepa Seetharaman, who previously worked for Reuters covering e-commerce and lives in San Francisco, said, "The highlighted information is too much and not pertinent and should not be included. A pertinent piece of information that we should add is this." The Wall Street Journal's technology contributor and Facebook expert Deepa Seetharaman said, the two co-founders of Facebook, "Don't just plop other people's thoughts into your writing. After you insert a quote, paraphrase, or summary, demonstrate its value and context. Explain to your reader why you included it and why that idea supports or illustrates your argument. Indicate the what, then the so what of the borrowed idea. For example, consider this quotation. Now let's add a what and a so what that demonstrate your own thoughts. The what is, by removing the Instagram co-founders and replacing them with Facebook's own executives, Facebook can control the app more closely. The so what is, this bid for control might indicate a fear of unbridled innovation at this point in Facebook's history. To be fair and avoid plagiarism, be sure you include a citation or link to the original source of the idea. Here are 3 ways to cite a source. In-text citations immediately follow a borrowed idea. They are quick internal references to a source, but need to be paired with fuller citation information in endnotes. Footnotes appear at the bottom of a page and are paired with small raised numbers in the text. Endnotes appear at the end of a piece. Here's an example. Hyperlinks are a convenient way to cite your sources because the link takes the reader directly to the original source. However, you can use these only in documents that will be used digitally. Here's what's called a long tail URL. More effectively, hide the long URL under the actual article title. Which citation style you use depends on the requirements of the document. Search the web for specific citation rules for a particular style like APA or MLA. Weaving other people's good ideas or vivid language into your writing strengthens it. Just make sure you quote, paraphrase, and summarize correctly so you fairly credit the author and increase your own credibility.